Okay, welcome to Connection to the Cosmos. Your host, me, Dr. Lisa Thompson, where I have out of this world conversations with extraordinary people. And we have had technical difficulties today, so we are coming live from Zoom instead of StreamYard. So thank you for bearing with us for those who are watching live. So let me introduce our guest, Dave Petrella. Dave is an astrologer, biologist, spiritual guide, and Oak Island Theorist. He's traveled to all 50 states in the United States and most of Canada doing research. Dave has studied world religions extensively, along with concepts of Eastern medicine, metaphysics, and topics related to extraterrestrial intelligence. He's available to teach these topics, including astrology, spirituality, health, and ancient wisdom. Dave also does birth charts, relationship matching, and business applications of astrology. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi. So good to have you here. And again, it's so, do you think these technical difficulties have anything to do with summer solstice?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's hear about that.
Yeah, I know. What a great segue. Well, for me, there's really no question. It's not just the solstice. You've also got the big alignment coming up. We're already kind of coming into it, but the 24th is kind of supposed to be when the moon ends up in its in a comfortable sign, a positive sign that's going to be beneficial for the moon. So there's actually a few things happening right now. It is the solstice, of course. I think it was 4:13 a.m. Central Time. That's when it actually happened.
Okay.
So we're on the other side of it now, which means we're going to be losing light for 6 months until the winter solstice. But yeah, anytime there's big events in the sky, especially like the past 2 years, you probably noticed yourself. I mean, I've had inordinate amounts of technical difficulties with all kinds of different apps and streaming platforms and everything. So I think a lot of it actually has to do with the sun particles coming off the sun. Okay. And I feel like sometimes it just gets supercharged and kind of just throws some particles out there because it is very unpredictable, but we got to go with what we have. And it is a good segue. And I agree with you, understanding what's happening in the sky, especially as it relates to technology and what happens on the Earth, whether you're doing actual astrology or you're just understanding the physics of more like astronomy, the sun's rays, or the moon's energy, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that you have noticed in whatever like the current chart is or what's going on that people need to be aware of, maybe for the next month or two?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, the first you already brought up. We're doing the perfect day for this, of course. It is the summer solstice, which means the sun is the highest point in the sky. It's the longest day in the northern hemisphere, give or take. I want to say 4 or 5, maybe up to 6 days, depends on the latitude. It's not exact as you go kind of further north of the equator, but it is celebrated and it is generally established to be on that day it's for the Tropic of Cancer, which is 23 and a half degrees north of the equator. So, and then like I was saying, as further you get north of that, it starts to like kind of elongate or shorten the day depending on which way it's going. But in any case, so yeah, summer solstice is a very powerful day. The sun is at its highest point. It's very happy. It's celebrating. It's in the sign of Cancer, which is it's actually the sign of the moon, which is interesting because the sun it rules Leo. It doesn't rule Cancer, but it's actually kind of telling you a little bit about how the solar system was designed, meaning that the celebration point is kind of in Cancer, which is it's really more the motherly type energy, the gathering together, the generosity, that making people feel welcome. And we've had, through history, we've had so many back and forths between female-dominated, male-dominated societies and everything. And I think a lot of people are feeling now that we have rather an imbalance, that we kind of need to get back to the more caring aspects. And you know what? Honestly, Lisa, for me, it's not even about. It has nothing to do with gender or someone's sex, male or female. It just has to do with how you should be as a human. And you can be masculine and you can still be kind. And for all the men, if there's men listening, I hope they kind of hear that and take that somewhat seriously, because it's all about taking care of each other, and those are the ways we're going to do it. Okay, so we've got that. We've got, like I said, the planets have been coming into alignment. I think it's six different planets in 6 signs. And the thing about it, Lisa, is that they're in signs that are beneficial. They like to be in the specific signs that they're in, and they're in order too, which is, it's extremely rare. I think the last time was 100 years ago.
Okay, and this is happening on June 24th, right? I think I saw something where they're all in alignment.
Yeah, the crowning event is going to be the 24th.
Okay.
So right now, I think 5 of them are already in place. And what's happening now is the moon is coming around, because the moon moves, quickly through each sign. So the moon's coming around, and I think it's going to be in, I shouldn't even say this. I thought it might be in Pisces that it's going to be. It's somewhere that it's helpful for the moon. I have to look at it again.
Okay.
But yeah, so basically we're already feeling the influence, because most of them are lined up. We've got the 6th one coming in, which is the moon. Plus today's the summer solstice. It's huge events today. Now, okay, so I'll put that aside for a second. The second part is it's the second stage of Pluto return. So the first stage of Pluto return we had February 22nd, somewhere right in there.
Okay.
And of course, that's when the war in Ukraine broke out with Russia.
Okay.
So it was weeks before that, and I was saying, guys, I'm like, I'm putting it out there. I'm going on record. I'm going to say it, and let's watch what happens. And right on that day, people are like, "Oh my God, yeah, that was correct." How'd you? It's because we can know things, and you can. I don't want to say predict, but you can be ready for specific qualities of things or specific types of events. I didn't know that it was going to be a war in Ukraine. I didn't know that, but Pluto is destruction and transformation, and destruction is very equivalent with war oftentimes. And then, but here's the thing, on the flip side of the coin, it's a transformation generally for the positive in some kind of a way. We may not know what that is yet, but as time goes on, we're going to be seeing it develop. So the second phase for Pluto return, this is Pluto return to the United States, which means it's to me, it's kind of like a judgment on the United States specifically, because the orbit of Pluto is very long. And what happens is it has not been in the same spot it was since the United States was founded.
Right. Yeah. It does have like a couple hundred years now, or 300.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's over 200 years.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important. And it's not just it's every country, every person. Well, people don't live that long, at least not nowadays. They don't live over 200 years, but everything will experience a Pluto return. It's just, what date are you starting it from? It's usually like you want to say the birth or the inception or the creation of something or whatever. If you go that far down the line, then when it comes back to the exact same spot, yeah, it's going to be passing a judgment. It's going to be transforming things. So the second phase is going to be July 11th.
Okay, of this year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, I'm just going to, again, I'll put it out there, just everyone be aware, be ready for it. I would say buckle up. If you are spiritual, you might want to get into meditation, say some prayers. It's not generally an easy pass. I mean, it's pretty difficult. It's a pretty rocky thing. Pluto is, and whether it's Pluto or not, that's a different conversation, but it's the last planet essentially in the solar system out there. Even if it's not Pluto, if it's something else, it still has that orbit. And the important thing about it is that things that are that far out in the solar system, they have huge influence, because that's closer to the creation event. The creation event, the way I teach it, the creation event happens in the 10th sphere, and the 10th sphere is occupied by Pluto in the solar system. So that's kind of like your Big Bang, and then everything gets projected down through the dimensions from the top dimension, it gets projected through the heavens, gets to Earth in the middle, and then it gets projected through the hells beneath it. And all of them are fractals of the one above it. And the further away from the point you are, it gets more and more dense. That's why the hells are very dense. But you have, according to that model, you really have, I would say, the way I teach it is really 21 different versions of yourself as it's projected through the dimensions. And depending on which avatar you're in, that's going to depend on which consciousness that you're able to access, and also it's going to dictate the density of the body of your vessel. So it's all cosmology.
Can people choose which avatar they are in? Because I believe we can. But
oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and the thing is there's lots of ways to look at that. I mean, really, a lot of it depends on how much control you have over yourself. Over your mind, over your heart, over your intention. That's really what it comes down to. But a lot of it also comes down, I would actually argue probably more of it comes down to your physiology, because that's what's allowing the chakras to open. I mean, you have fluid channels in the body that's allowing for things to flow, specifically the oil that you really need to establish inside of all of your cellular structure. So the more of that you have going, the more freedom that you're going to experience, that you're going to actually feel. So it also, I believe, some of it depends on karma too. I do believe in karma, and you do have to pay back what you have given out. Sometimes, and I believe in larger measure than you gave it out. Sometimes you have to pay it back in multiples of what you did. So it depends on a lot of factors, but actually, I'll mention this too. This is really interesting. This is something I talked about with my friend Karen Holton. She has her own show called the Quantum Guide Show. It's a great show. I recommend people go check that out. The thing that we talk about is that, okay, so the cosmology model that I use is based on the cosmic axis. So this model has the Earth in the center, has a flat plane. Now the word planet is from plane, so that's something for people to think about. And then above that, you have the 10 heavens. Below it, you have the 10 hells. So since we're physically occupying the Earth dimension right now, we're in physical bodies in this Earth dimension. No matter what I can do, unless I have serious skill, or if I become an ascended master, for instance, I can't go to Jupiter right now, or I can't go inhabit my body that's already waiting for me in Jupiter. There's ways to do that, but it's, I would say, very, very, very few people have access to that level of freedom. But what you do have access to is that while you're on this dimension, this is a minimum, while you're in this Earth dimension, you can actually receive and communication between all of the other dimensions. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I use the 21 system model, which is 10 above, 10 below the Earth, plus the Earth in the middle makes 21. And so you can be pulling, most of your energy from the 8th dimension or the 8th heaven, for instance, and you would be living in a very, very, these are probably the people who say, oh, it's just, Earth is so beautiful, it's just heaven on earth here, I just love it so much. Yeah. Well, if you're not pulling the higher dimensions in your consciousness, you're not going to be feeling that.
Right.
If you're pulling, a lot of people, it's a difficult battle. A lot of it's, like I said, physiology, but you can be on Earth and you can be pulling the hellish dimensions as your communication instead of the heavenly dimensions. And we're all walking around, we can all see each other, but we're all living in these different energy gradients based on you. And that's largely, or actually mostly, especially as you age, based on your physiology. So I hope that answers some of that.
It does. And I'm sure some of our viewers are like, oh, I completely understand what you just said. And others are like, what the fuck did he just say?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, if you guys want to, I started my YouTube channel up. I do have some stuff on cosmology that I've done.
Okay.
And I show the model. I show it visually and I show how it is. But even if you take, here's something.
Well, you can go ahead and plug your YouTube channel right now if you want.
Yeah, sure. We'll just type in Dave Petrella on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm still trying to get it more visible, but you should see a couple playlists come up. I have one that's called Podcast and Conversations. I have another one called Educational Videos. Then you just click on my name when you see that. That's my channel that I kind of started that up. But if people also, if they want to go into like Google and type in, I think it's called Vedic cosmology or Hindu Vedic cosmology, perhaps. Type that into Google, pull up the images, and you're going to see the cosmic axis, what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And it's not exclusive to the people in ancient India. Actually, most of the ancient cosmologies are based on an axis. It's also called the axis mundi, if people have heard of that before. It's called the world tree, or Yggdrasil with the Norse. It's all the same thing. It's actually the torus field, and it's how the cosmology is actually organized in our solar systems based on different energy gradients in the torus field. And then your body, it's set up the exact same way. So the cosmic axis, you can also refer to that as the spinal column. And
Okay.
the chakra system, or they're equivalent to all the planets. And then you have the constellations in the 8th chakra above your head, which is where all the mental activity happens. So yeah, go check that out, guys, if you're more interested in that. There's quite a bit out there.
Okay. Well, I want to switch gears just a tiny bit because we didn't get normally the first question I ask, so people get to know you a little bit better,
Okay.
is like, tell me how you grew up. Did you grow up in a spiritual or a religious household? How did you, like, young Dave, how did you get into astrology and Oak Island theory and all of the metaphysical stuff that you do?
Well, I grew up Catholic. It didn't work for me at all.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But having said that, it was a good starting point because I knew what I was not looking for. And I'm not even really necessarily putting it down. I'm saying for me, it didn't work.
Right.
If I walk into a Catholic church and there's some beautiful music, I actually really enjoy it. I like seeing the flowers. I like seeing all the nice, everything decorated nicely. The scents that can be nice and it helps you get into meditative state and everything. Even the principles of the water and the oil and the wine, these are principles of alchemy, really.
Yeah.
And of course, they don't really want to talk about that, but this is changing substances, it's changing forms and changing matter. It's also high chemistry and science and everything. So in any case, yeah, I left about 10th grade, and then I decided to, I took a break for about, how long was it? 10? That's probably about 6 years. I had no association at all. It was a very, very lonely, dark time. I will say that, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I didn't know what I was trying to accomplish. Let's see. I had a Bible given to me in 2010. This was a Christian denomination, which is non-denominational Christian. My friend gave it to me.
Okay.
It's out on my table. I didn't even know if I'd read it, and then one day I just picked it up. I started reading through the New Testament and Psalms and Proverbs,
Mhm.
and it was great. It was good to like kind of revisit just the spiritual traditions, just to start something. I found contemporary Christian music to be very helpful. I like the positive message.
Okay.
Sometimes people don't even know what the words are, but it feels good and it sounds good, and that's important too.
Yeah.
If it makes you happy and it makes you feel good, then go with it. If it's working for you. So I did some of that too, and then let's see here. Okay, the spiritual aspect. 2008, 2009, I had a series of experiences that involved, I would say, extraterrestrial craft. And during the day and during the nighttime, this was like my initiation period, essentially.
Okay.
I also had a lot of things happening with spirits and ghosts and invisible energies and all that kind of stuff. And it opened my eyes to a world that I didn't even know existed. So now I had so much now ahead of me that I was able to say, okay, I'm gonna look into this. I'm gonna look into this. And I kind of did it slowly, but it built up, and as I got more comfortable with it,
Mhm.
I started to look into the Eastern traditions, which included, of course, the Hindu traditions. I might have probably started with the Buddhist traditions. They're kind of more common to hear about that, at least in North America. And then I went over to the Hindu traditions. I started reading a lot of the texts. I went in to learn about the chakra system. I started to learn about fasting and designing your diet to work for your consciousness and all things of that nature. So that kicked off 2008, 2009, and then 2012 was a really big year. That was a huge enlightenment year. I know it's cliche, but that was true for me. So I'll just tell people how it
Yeah.
went. So we had the 2012 one, and then we had 2015. I learned astrology.
Okay.
I was looking for information actually on the spinal cord fluid as it relates to mysticism. And so I found who's now my friend, and I was actually on a show a couple of weeks back, Santos Bonacci. He's a wonderful astrologer. He does a lot with the flat Earth idea, and common law, and lots of other great things that he does. Health, natural remedies, things of that nature. So I found the video, but it was a video on essentially like it brought together anatomy and the Bible and spirituality and biology, and all this stuff was coming together. And I had never seen this before. I didn't even know it existed. And what I tell people kind of now is that that's what I needed when I was like 17. So I'd really like for people who's, specifically maybe high school, it's probably a really good time to really get into the stuff if you're interested. Because it does take a certain maturity level. You need to be able to handle, you need to have self-discipline, you need to be able to understand how the world works. I want to get that in front of people at a younger age so that they can at least have seen it. Because if you see it, then you can actually decide if you like it or not. If you never see it, then you don't even know it's available to you. And that's a tragedy to me, because there's information that we need and it's not available because it's just so obscure and it's sometimes hard to explain, or it's hard to find it. So then the last part of that was Santos had some videos on astrology on like the videos that we would suggest for you section over on the side there.
Okay.
And so he did such a good job with the first video. I mean, that first video changed my life forever. And then I said, well, I'm going to give him a chance with astrology. I didn't really want to watch it, to be honest. I just wasn't interested.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched it, and I looked at my own birth chart, and then I looked at my friends and family's birth charts. And then I said, well, there's actually really a pattern here. And I don't know what this means yet, but I need to follow this. And that's because, really I'm a scientist. So when I look at things, I want to see that I can replicate it. I want to be able to count on good data and make good conclusions based on the data. So that's how I did it. And it didn't matter if I wanted to do it or not, or if I liked it or not. It proved itself to me that it was true and it was accurate. So as a scientist, I have to go with it. And even to this day, I mean, I do a huge amount of astrology. I do birth charts, relationship matching, I do business applications. I sometimes pick days for people that they're going to have more success on if they're trying to choose a project or something like that, or a class. But it was never my first focus.
Okay.
But I do feel honored that it was given to me it's kind of like a responsibility for me. It's something that I was asked to do. And what I feel is the universe wanted it to be done correctly and to be done scientifically, mathematically, not as a fad, not as a hobby. This is actually bringing back the actual mathematics, the angles. I don't infer anything, Lisa, when I do charts. I literally am pulling data and I'm saying whether it's me or not, it's going to say the same thing. So if you don't like it, it's not me that you're not going to like. It's the science that you're not going to like. Yeah. And you have to contend with that yourself, But if you use it as a tool, it can really help you to have a lot of success, huge success. I mean, if you understand how it's actually knit together, then you can really have a lot more success, possibly aptitude in your life. You can have better direction. The thing it's really done for me too is it's helped me with my relationships with other people, because back before I knew anything about astrology, I would say, what is wrong with this person? Why are they acting that way? And then when I don't really take it very personally at all anymore, because I already see what's going on. If there's a couple right angles going on, between two people, that's enough. That's enough no matter what you say, you're going to have issues. I can guarantee that. If you have a couple oppositions, things like that, it's not easy. So if you understand the system, then suddenly you're not asking how it works anymore, and you're just saying, okay, so I'm going to work with this because this is what's in place. This is the maturity factor for me. I'm going to work with this because this is what's in place. I'm going to pay attention, and I'm going to use it as an asset instead of letting it control me. Because whether you believe it or not,
Mm-hmm.
your clock has already been wound up and set from the moment of birth. I mean, you have the progressions, you have all the stuff that comes through. If you pay attention, you'll see every year you have around the same times, your same natal points, you're going to have very similar experiences. Qualitatively, I should say. It might not be the same event or something. But for instance, I talked to someone the other day, and they were saying, actually, before she said it to me, I said, do you have, is it a little rocky for you during the month of May, around like the 15th, I think it was around 15th or something like that. And I said, it's going to be about 7 days before and about 7 days after. And they said, yeah, it's always rocky for me every year. And you can know that because of what is placed in your chart at that point. So I just recommend, if people already like astrology that are watching the show, fantastic. If you want to know more about it, obviously go to my page, watch some of the videos and everything. You can send me questions if you have questions, absolutely. And if you don't like it, I would still encourage you to listen to the explanation because, well, first of all, I respect I respect people's opinions. I'm not trying to pressure anyone or force anyone, and I never do that. It's against universal law. But I would say that, like, if it hasn't been presented to you correctly, then I'll just say for myself, give me the chance, give me about an hour, maximum 2 hours, and just see what it looks like when it's done correctly. It's done correctly. I'm doing it as a science. I stand by that. I don't even have to think about it anymore. I just pull it up and I see all the patterns, and I know how to get that across to people.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that, so my mother was an astrologer when I was growing up. So I've always been very comfortable with that and love the science underlying it. And I never personally wanted to go like learn astrology at the depth that she did and all her friends did. So I did human design instead, but same, human design has astrology as part of it, and it's got the science underlying it. And what I love about all the different modalities like that have been around for whether it's thousands of years or even newer, like human design since the late 80s, it is scientifically predictable. And it's something that they don't normally conflict with each other. They all support each other from my experience. So I love that.
Yeah, fantastic. It's actually interesting. Someone just brought up human design to me last week. Okay. And I haven't really read about it. Can you tell me more about how that works?
So human design, it was a modality that was channeled through Ra Uru back in the late 80s, and it combines Western astrology, the I Ching, Hindu chakra system, Kabbalah tree of life, genetics, and quantum mechanics. Okay. And so, similar to astrology, it gives a blueprint of who you were born to be in this specific life, and it gives you information about what you're pulling in karmically, epigenetically from your family lineage, life focus, life theme, how you best operate in the world, different qualities and traits. And you can look at relationships just like with astrology and see where there's a lot of symbiosis, and then there can be conflict and other things. So yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I think I have the link. I'm gonna do some reading more on that. And really what it sounds like to me is essentially syncretism, which is linking, and this is, Santos Bonacci, it's a term I learned from him. It's linking everything together, seeing how it all fits together, all of the numbers and planets and your body and all this stuff, and the religious texts and everything. And it's just really understanding your solar system. And once you can do that, then you can start to see kind of what's going on. I believe one of the ways I've described the Earth experience is that it's some people describe it as a school. The way I like to describe it is it's an ascension or a descension machine. It's very clockwork. Things are prescribed to happen at specific times based on alignments and everything, what's in the sky at that moment, and what age you're in and things of that nature. So it's an opportunity for you. Basically, when you're born, there's a backdrop. There's a set backdrop. And that is something, you can be born 1,000 years in the future, 5,000 years in the past. It's not linear, it's all actually existing at the same time. So you can pop in whenever either you find it's going to be helpful for you. Sometimes it's a combination of that and karma. But there are always opportunities to learn, even if it's a difficult road for you. it's never just full karma. It's karma plus here's your opportunity to make it, to figure out what you did, make it better, things of that nature. So based on how you do and where your heart is at the moment of transition, when you leave the body, you either, the easiest way for me to explain it is you either go up or you go down. Either you've increased in your awareness or you've decreased in your awareness. And based on that, like as I mentioned before, there's many dimensions that you can incarnate in. And within those dimensions, there's of course the different mental states, which correlate with all the other 21 dimensions. Plus, there are different vessels that you can go into. It doesn't have to be a human. It can be an animal. It can be a plant. It could be a rock. It could be anything.
Yeah, I just did a past life regression for a client the other day, and we visited 3 lives, and one, she was a bird. Another life, she was like pure energy. And then the other was a kind of a human life. So, and I've had people regress into all sorts of interesting things. One lady was a planet that had a fear-based population that ended up destroying the planet. So yeah, we are all of those things simultaneously. So actually, because this is connection to the cosmos, I want to focus a little more on your extraterrestrial experiences. And I know that you work with experiencers in a capacity right now as well. So tell us about your story, your personal story, and then what you do in that field.
Well, as I mentioned before, it kind of kicked off for me in 2008. I'm trying to think the first one here. Well, well, okay, that wasn't the ET one. So I'll start with the first ET one. The first ET one, I can't remember if it was that one or that one. Okay, well, they basically both happened within a couple weeks of each other. I think it was 2009, actually. And I was in, I'll start with the Roswell one. I know it's very cliche. Just to put it out there, I went in with, I had no expectations. I was not expecting anything. I just went, I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on. Let's see what this is about. I want to experience this. So I was coming into Roswell, driving, and I was coming in from the northwest, which actually also, and I did not know this at the time, but the crash site is to the northwest of the city.
Okay.
In a very, unpopulated, I guess, on a ranch or a farm area kind of. So I did not know that. But then when I looked back and I saw which way I was coming in, I said, okay, well, that fit really well. But anyway, I was coming in and up pretty, well, it wasn't that high actually, maybe a few thousand feet up in the sky, was I thought it was a star. It was really bright, really, really bright. And I looked over at it, but I had a weird feeling. I just couldn't explain why I had a strange feeling about it. And I had no precedent up to this time for any kind of ET experience whatsoever. So I said, all right, I'm just watching this, and let's see what kind of information I can gather from this. And then what it started to do was it started to like wobble back and forth.
Okay.
So it looked like it was on like I'll explain this. Well, okay. I'll just illustrate with my hands. So basically, if this was the axis of the craft, like horizontally like this, it was kind of going like this.
Okay.
Back and forth like that.
Yeah.
Not too fast, but I said, okay, so that's obviously not a planet. I don't know what on earth is going on up here. It also doesn't look like an aircraft that I've seen. I've never seen anything do that before. It wasn't. It was stationary too. It wasn't moving through the sky as you would expect, like a plane or a helicopter or whatever. And so the next thing that happened is it actually moved all the way to the other side of the sky. It looked like it was fake. Like I've never seen anything do anything like that in my life. I mean, it must have, I don't even know how many tens of thousands of miles an hour that must have been that moved, or even more. I have no idea. I mean, you could measure it. If I went back, I could probably try to measure it. Although actually, I don't know if I want to go back. That's the other part of that. But anyway, and by the way, while this is happening, I'm getting this really bad earache.
Okay.
in my right ear, which is the one that was facing the craft.
Okay.
So all these things, it's not just one or two things. They're all actually supporting each other, that this is something different.
Right.
But anyway, it went all the way to the other side of the sky. And then not only did it do, which is speeds that I firmly believe humans do not have the capacity to move at. And then it literally stopped on a dime,
Mm-hmm.
which again is something that would kill any occupant. According to the physical laws of what we know, that would be instantaneous death. You can't stop like that. And by the way, nothing that is man-made can even stop like that.
So
you need to let it.
Maybe we've done a lot of reverse engineering. They know a lot of stuff they haven't come out with.
Oh yeah. But in that case, the initial craft is coming from off planet or something that's not man-made initially, and then it crashes, and then now you can engineer yourself. Now, I totally agree with that, the capacity for that to happen. But anyways, over on the other side of the sky, and then it actually just the light went out completely.
Okay.
It started to wobble again, and then the light went out, and then it just like appeared back where it started. But this time I didn't see it travel. It just appeared there again.
Kind of blipped.
Yeah, exactly. And then it just turned into a bright light again.
Yeah.
So that whole night.
Were you by yourself, or was there someone with you?
I was by myself driving. For the rest of that night, I had an earache for 5 or 6 hours. It wouldn't go away. Mm-hmm. So, I'm assuming it was some kind of radiation, some kind of very high energy, something, particle beam. I have no idea. But the thing with ETs too and with craft is that they're very telepathic, I'm sure you probably know, and they work with quantum laws that we don't even understand. Mm-hmm. So, basically anything is possible in the solar system and in the universe. You just have to have. I don't like the technology component. I like the biological component, which means I want it to be a natural system. I don't want it to be like a metallic object that allows you to do something. The way I teach it is that you can do that within your own body.
Yeah.
So find ways for even including like astral travel and stuff too.
Yes.
Now it's like, okay, you want to go to Mars? Okay, well then work on your own body, and you're going to be able to project into an astral form or an etheric form, and then you can actually go there really safely.
Right.
Really safely, and you don't need resources because your physical body's not there. So anyway, people have differences of opinion, but I don't like the artificial technological stuff. It's not for me.
Okay. I agree with you on the biological though. All that is, yes, it is possible, and I've done it. I know a lot of people who have done that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Okay, and so the second experience, which was a couple weeks apart, it might have been before, actually. I can't remember which one happened first. But this was also in New Mexico. I know, again, very cliche. I will say this, that when you cross the border, the sign, it does say the land of enchantment. So for people who are skeptical about that, I saw that and I'm like, that sounds fun. Let's see what this is about. It wasn't that fun for me. I have had a couple really like cool positive experiences in New Mexico, but it depends on what part of the state you're in. The good experience I had was a very northeastern corner of New Mexico, which is very different. It's very mountainous, and I felt really good there. It's a very different feel. So the other thing I encourage people to try to pay attention to as well is that when you are in different geographical and geological, specifically areas, pay attention to how the energy is different in the land and how you feel, because it's not your imagination. The land has its own kind of energy. It's also imprinted with the history that's happened there, whether it's native history or ET history or whatever it is. So definitely pay attention to that. But anyway, so the second one, I was up in the northwest quadrant, which is essentially where Four Corners is, very close to Four Corners, which is where the four states, they make a perfect cross right there.
Right. And
this was at Shiprock, New Mexico. And there's essentially most people believe it's a volcanic cone, the center of a volcano that is essentially eroded. And it used to, by the way, all the stuff used to be underneath water. That's the other weird thing about this. This is like essentially exposed seafloor that has been lifted up thousands of feet because now it's in the high desert.
Right.
So that stuff, I think this stuff happens a lot more frequently than humans realize. I think there's cataclysmic changes that happen fairly frequently. So yeah, I was up there. I started to look up the cloud. I saw a really interesting shape. It was a chieftain's head, and he had a skull cap, a buffalo skull cap on. I could see the horns coming out the side like this. It was literally like an artist drew this in the sky. He said, "We're not talking about pareidolia. This is literally like it was the best artist. Literally went up there and drew this like with a stylus or something like that."
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking up at it. I started to feel I felt weird, I didn't feel bad. I felt weird about it. And then I looked, he was looking, the chieftain's face, this was in the clouds. It was made of clouds, essentially. He was looking off to one side. And then I looked down. When I looked back up, he was looking directly at me.
So it's like it had rotated.
So, yeah. Well, the eyes moved. The eyes moved. It was over here, and then it was right looking at me when I looked back up at it. So, and this is one of my first experiences with highly supernatural occurrences. So it's a terrifying experience because, first of all, I didn't even know this stuff existed for most of my life, and now I'm having to contend existentially with what that means to me.
Okay.
And I didn't even have anything to pull from at that point. I didn't know anything about ET history or really even Roswell. I barely knew anything about it.
So fear of the unknown, I'm just going to put that out there for everyone because that's what I'm trying to educate people on. There isn't anything to be afraid of. We just need to open our minds and know about things. Let's educate ourselves.
Yes, and also go in with respect. That's a huge one. If you're going into a charged area, go in with respect. It's not a bad idea to get a native blessing. I'm going to start doing that in the future as well. Because I respect the land, I respect the spirits that are there. I'm not trying to interfere. I'm just trying to experience whatever's going on. Mm-hmm. So the second thing that happened, I didn't see this. Well, I'll follow up on what happened in a second. But basically, I was taking pictures of the sky because I wanted to see it afterwards, and I got the chieftain's head and everything. Okay. I know you're gonna ask. I don't have pictures anymore. My computer died. I lost everything on my computer. This was like 10 years ago.
Okay. Which
to me means it wasn't for me to share, it was for me to experience, I'm not upset about that by any means. So I was taking pictures of the chieftain's head, and I pulled over to the side of the road. And by the way, this is a very prominent, Shiprock is a huge, straight up off the desert floor. I mean, it's like a mountain that comes out of nowhere. And you can see the tail where the magma used to flow off of the volcano. The tail tails across the road and everything. It's like a spine, goes all the way across the road, cuts right through it actually, and it continues on the other side. So it's a very, very impressive structure. Okay. People want to see it. Shiprock from Mexico. So I pulled off the side of the road, and I'm actually taking this was back in the time when the cameras didn't have large memory cards. I'm sure you remember that time.
Yes.
So I had to actually put it onto my computer so I could take more pictures on my camera. Mm-hmm. And so what I did is I did that, and I started to hear a voice in the wind, and and again, I don't know why I felt this, but I generally go with my feelings. My first feeling about it, it sounded like Arabic to me.
Okay.
I mean, it could have been maybe Navajo. I don't know what exactly, but it was not the wind. It sounded like the wind, kind of, but I heard syllables, and I heard it was broken up, and the timbre went up and down and stuff like this. This was not wind. It was an actual voice. So that started, and then after that started, I said, I'm getting out of here because I can't do this anymore because overload, I've had enough. But that night, I drove up to Durango, Colorado, mm-hmm. and I slept there that night. And while I was getting ready to sleep, I took my camera back out, and I was looking at the pictures, and turns out it wasn't just the chieftain's head in this picture. There were all kinds of alien bodies and alien heads in this. I'm talking like there must have been at least 50 or 60 of them. It was a huge amount. Some of them were basically, I rotated my camera 90 degrees, and they were in all directions. Some of them were standing up. Some of them were upside down. Some of them were on their sides like this. Some of them had the heads that kind of looked like ET, that are long, like the football shape. Some of them had the really tall, elongated I mean, huge, huge elongated heads that go straight up. So I saw what they looked like. That was the first time, and I actually don't need any more proof than that. Again, it was not something that I was imagining. These were perfectly detailed, shocking detail. You could see all the eye structure, the ear, everything. They were perfectly formed up there.
Well, one thing I love about cameras is they don't have any filters, so they can pick up things that our eyes can't see, that we have a veil. So I love that.
Yeah, and actually, I had one when I was in Nova Scotia. You mentioned Oak Island, of course. I worked on that project for many years. I was up there in 2017. I filmed in 2017 my work. It didn't end up broadcasting, unfortunately, but it was a wonderful experience, and I'm still involved in many ways. Still involved with that project. And so I had up there. I took a picture, and there was actually a fairy. It was, again, I didn't see this when I was looking at it, but when I looked at my camera, it was actually in UV light, which makes sense why I wasn't seeing it. And it was just the most brilliant, like pink, purple, fluorescent. It was so beautiful. It was so supernatural. You don't see colors like that on the earth. It made me so happy. So basically, it was a rectangle, like a perfect rectangle, very, very small. And inside the rectangle was a fairy's body. And it was very stick figure like. It had the two legs, but it was a very benevolent spirit. And that doesn't happen to me a lot. Usually I get the weird things coming in.
So what's up with your vibration, Dave? Because I like the high vibe things.
Well, and you know what it is that I wanna see everything that's out there. So I try not to close off to whatever. But again, a lot of it does depend on locally, on like what is the energy in the land. Because this particular part of Nova Scotia, it's not like malevolent energy. When I was in northwest New Mexico, it was bordering on malevolent. Yeah, it was definitely bordering on that. It was right. It wasn't attacking me. I've had that happen before in Massachusetts. That's another level.
Okay.
But I did not feel comfortable. But everything on Oak Island, I felt fine. You know, they respected me. But this one in particular, I could see it had 3 antennae coming out of its head, and the heart had a diamond. It looked literally like a diamond shape. Trying to think what would be a good reference for that. Not like a diamond on a ring, but like a deck of playing cards. Yeah, right, Lisa, exactly.
More like shape, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But it was a perfect diamond, and it was right over the heart of the fairy. Okay. So again, this is something that I wasn't thinking that. I wasn't making that up in my head. I didn't design that. I guess I could see if like I knew I was thinking about that when I took the picture, maybe I could project that onto where it was. But no, I had nothing to do with me. I did not do that. So yeah, I mean the spectrum, the UV spectrum, people remember from like secondary school. That's really how I define where the spirits end up and how they're able to manifest themselves to you, because the middle is visible light, and that's what we can see. But that's a very, very small amount. Of course, we know the most of it is on the other spectrums, either to the left or to the right, either to the radio waves or the gamma waves. And I actually define it very simply: is that if you have a benevolent being, it's going to be made of energy that is higher vibration than your body, your visible light body. So that would be UV, X-ray, gamma ray. Their structures are made of that. We're like that. Well, I mean, we have that capacity, but in terms of most days, we're made of visible light. And then conversely, the more negative energies are going to be made of the microwaves and the radio waves and the infrared waves. So for me, it's very simple. It's like I know I can't see these things because they're outside of the visual spectrum for the human. Right. But if it doesn't feel good, I know it's not going to be. For me, it's not gamma rays, because the gamma ray, that's where the sun puts off the gamma rays. The sun is the life giver. It's not trying to take life from you, it's helping you.
Yes. So
it's very simple. And actually what I did, Lisa, is I flipped that because it's usually horizontal, the electromagnetic spectrum chart, and I flip it vertically like this.
Okay.
And then I above, well, the middle, the visible light, that's Earth.
That's Earth. So it's your same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the same thing, and that's how your body works too. And you can see where to expect things, whether it's above it or below it.
Okay. So we only have a short time left right on today's show, but we'll have you back.
Okay.
But what kind of work do you do with experiencers now? Because I know you're part of some organization that works with experiencers, or you have a YouTube or a podcast regarding that.
Yeah, we kind of parted ways. We had some differences of opinion about how to do things.
Okay.
I'm working on a lot of new projects that I'm putting together.
Okay.
But having said that, I can't reference Karen for sure. I mean, Karen is very big into experiencer support. She's had a lot of ET experiences herself. Both of us are kind of on the same wavelength with that. We support people who have had experiences. We try to bring understanding to that. Sometimes it's just people need an ear to listen to, to listen to their story. They're not asking anything from you. They just want to be heard. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it's like, help us to figure out what you think happened. But the thing about the ET experience is that I believe it's very unique to every person. And when you start talking about quantum fields, then everything is kind of up in the air, because you also have like essentially your own dimension that you create. And I'm not saying necessarily people are projecting things out there that they see, but we are all creators, and so we have the ability to do that. So I think what it is for me mostly is not necessarily trying to understand who are these beings coming to the earth. I'm good with that. I'm interested in that. But for me, it's to understand, or for that person to understand, what do they want to do with that experience. Now, some people love to have them, and that's great. I don't even have, yeah, exactly. Right. So I don't even have to, there's no help I need to provide with that. If people are not enjoying the experience, or they don't want to have those experiences, then the way that I approach it, well, there's two ways, is to, first of all, just ask the universe. Say, I don't want these experiences anymore. Give a very heartfelt prayer or meditation, or send energy, or however you want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we have free will. So I like that, because we do have control over what we have in our energy field.
Exactly. And just be very, very direct with what you expect for your experiences.
Yeah.
And then the other part is that what you can do for sure is that you can fix your energy field. And there's lots of ways to do that. I mean, the first way, that doesn't really involve any kind of biology or health changes, is just to fix the heart. Get your heart quiet and experience the love. Remember how you felt when you were like 2 years old. Try to get into that mental space and then that heart space again. And then on top of that, as I mentioned before, start working with the fluids in the body. You have to get the fluids refined, and you're going to be able to produce higher consciousness, higher vibration energy, which will in turn actually establish a more protective energy field around you. And the more protected that is, then you can actually dictate everything that happens to you. And we don't have to feel like we're victims,
Yeah.
So that's what it is. There's lots of options, but there's a lot of support available for people. I mean, I will always listen if people want to run things by me, if they want my perspective on it, or I mean, I support everyone. It's the universe is open to all possibilities. So I'm not, and in fact, no one is, in my opinion, should be saying, oh, you didn't have that experience. We don't know. I don't live in someone else's body. I live in my body.
Well, and even if, the mind, whether the eyes are closed or open, the mind experiences that reality. So it is real.
Yeah, exactly. And I would just encourage people to steer that the way that they want it to go. Don't feel like it's coming into your zone without your permission. You want to make sure that you're giving it permission, whatever that is, to do that.
Yeah. And so for those of you watching, if you have had experiences, and so if you want the kind of support where you get regressed to understand what that experience was and what the actually higher meaning of that experience from a higher perspective, what I have understood with the clients that I have and with other practitioners that do the same work is that when you get to a deep enough level, coming from the higher self, coming from source information, once people experience that, they realize, oh, that wasn't actually a scary situation. It's just that the ego turns it into a fear-based fear of the unknown, kind of like maybe how you were feeling in Roswell, like, oh, this is new. I don't know what this is. But in actuality, I believe we all choose to have experiences, whether we realize it or not, whether we remember it or not. And we are volunteers, not victims. And so understanding that we do have free will and we can understand from that higher perspective. So on that note, I just have a couple of announcements and then we're going to wrap up with you telling people how they can find you and work with you. So the Galactic Retreat I still have spots available. That's here in Waikoloa, Hawaii, October 13th to the 16th. And we are going to be doing so many amazing activities, real deep dive, like experiential techniques to connect stronger with our higher dimensional brothers and sisters, and ultimately us. My new book, Connection to the Cosmos, Remembering Your Galactic Heritage and Embracing Your Oneness, is going to be out probably in a couple months. So stay tuned. I'm going to have pre-orders in the next week or two. And then my newest Oracle deck related to the book, Connection to the Cosmos. It's being shipped to me now. So that will be available within the week. And then if you're in Hawaii, come see me on one of our Big Island UFO tours. You can find me at drlisajthompson.com and bigislandUFOtours.com, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. So Dave, how can people find you and how do they work with you?
Great. You guys already know about my YouTube channel. Type in Dave Petrella if you want. That's all free. I've got lots of videos up there. There's more coming every month. Quite a few every month. I've got a list of educational videos there too. So type in Dave Petrella. You might have to search for a little bit. Look for the playlists that I put up, and I'm going to get it more visible, but I've just got that going. And then I'm on Facebook, so Dave Petrella on Facebook. You'll see me, and I'm going to look exactly the same. Actually, I don't have glasses on my picture, so maybe that's not true. I changed the picture.
Yeah, you look a little different with your glasses.
Yeah, exactly. But you'll see at the top it says Astrology, Biology, Spiritual Guidance, Oak Island Theorist at the top of my profile. That's my page. And then Instagram, Dave Petrella 12. If you want to send me an email, it's davepetrella@hotmail.com. And just let me know what I can do for you guys. Of course, I'm an astrologer. I do birth charts, a lot of birth charts. I do relationship matching, whether it can be with significant other, it can be with a family member, it can be a work environment, it can be all kinds of things. It's basically interpersonal matching. Business applications, and like I said, I do pick dates for people if they want to get into that a little bit, where they're going to more likely have success. They have a big event coming up or something of that nature. And then I do a lot with health tips based on Eastern medicine principles, fasting, working with oils, things of that nature, and also just general spiritual guidance. So if you just want to have a conversation with someone that has a lot of experience with the different traditions on the planet, the different spiritual traditions, the different religious traditions, I've read most of the spiritual texts, and I can help you find what might be more helpful for you, because it's different for everyone. It's not the same, and what works for me might not work for you, and that's totally fine. So any of those things, I have a lot of stuff on Oak Island too. I have some Oak Island interviews up on my page if people are interested in that. But that's one of my big projects that I've got going too. So just send me a message, guys.
Hey, you have a lot going on, a lot of different ways. Well, I really appreciate you being here today, Dave, with me. And again, I'd love to have you in the future so we can talk about other things that we didn't even touch on today. So much more to talk about. And thank you for those of you watching either live or watching the replay. And I'll see you next time. Aloha.